I'm Breanna from Boom, and welcome to this week's edition of Boom Chat. Today, I'll be talking with Roxane Gay, Tracy Lynne Oliver, and Rebecca Kirby, the amazing creative team that's bringing you The Sacrifice of Darkness. This graphic novel adapts Roxane's New York Times best-selling short story, We Are the Sacrifice of Darkness, into a full-length graphic novel and expands on the short story about a tragic event that forever bathes the world in darkness. Follow a woman and a man's powerful journey through this new landscape as they discover love, family, and the true light in a world seemingly robbed of any. As they challenge the world's notions of identity, guilt, and survival, they find that no matter the darkness, there remain sources of hope that can pierce the veil. Roxanne, this is such a beautiful story. What was the original inspiration for the short story We Are the Sacrifice of Darkness?
When I originally wrote the short story, I was just thinking the word air machine popped into my mind, and I don't know why. And I just thought, what kind of world would exist where there were air machines? And so I started doing some research on blimps and the other one, like the one that was the Hindenburg. And then I just thought, no, I'm going to write a story about this. I'm going to write a story about what the world would look like if the sun disappeared. Like, how would that happen? And it just, the way my imagination works, it just keeps building from there. And at the time, I was living in Michigan's Upper Peninsula, and the copper industry had completely disappeared because the copper mines ran dry. And when a place loses its primary employment source, like economic devastation is, of course, what ensues. And so I was really interested in writing a story about, what happens in a town where you are exploited for your labor. You know, one thing led to another, and now here we are.
It's so gorgeous, and it really makes you stop and think, and I really appreciate it. It was so beautiful. My next question is for Tracy. What was it like for you adapting the short story into a graphic novel format?
Well, I was nervous at first because I'd never worked in this format before, but this happens to be one of my favorite Roxane Gay stories. And it's kind of my genre where it's kind of magical realism a little bit, a little fantastical, a little futuristic. So I was eager to just put my fear to the side and jump in, and was really looking forward to kind of exploring what happened to Hiram and Mara before everything.
Mhm.
So it was fun exploring that part of the story and building that because Roxanne had done kind of the back end of the story with the Joshua and Claire. So it was fun for me to develop that and explore that.
Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, how was it like for the two of you working together? I know I'm going a little off script here, but like, how did you two meld those two together?
We've known each other and have been best friends really for more than a decade. So we know each other's writing very well, and we have really compatible personalities. So we just, you know, I really wanted to trust Tracy, and I knew I could. And so she would come up with something and I would give her my thoughts, and we really had a really great back and forth. But I really wanted Tracy to be able to put her voice into the piece so that it really is a genuine collaboration. It's not her sort of interpreting my vision, it's us creating a vision together.
I love
Yeah.
that, and it works so well. I'm so sorry, Tracy. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say Roxanne. It was interesting having to adapt my voice to kind of match Roxanne's writing voice, and it just made me realize like what a romantic writer she is, and the way she portrays her characters and the environments and their situations and the language, and because I wanted to be kind of very seamless as much as possible, but so it was just every time I would get excited to send her new pages and then wait for the feedback, and just when she was pleased I was pleased, and I'm really glad she trusted me because it was a really fun project.
Oh, that's fantastic. And that actually sort of leads me into my next question. Tracy, what was your favorite part of working with Roxanne and Rebecca?
Well, with Roxanne, it was just I felt for doing something so new to me that it was just so nice to have it be with your best friend, like I wasn't scared. I mean, I was scared, but she made it way more comfortable, and it was easy to ask her stupid questions because she'd done a graphic novel previously. So it was very comforting for me. And then Rebecca was just, as soon as we saw her artwork, I mean, I'm hands off. Like I can't draw like a snake, stick figures maybe, but she was just brilliant. And when we saw those pages coming back, oh my God, it was like, how did she see what was in my head? It was amazing.
Oh, I love that. So, Roxanne, my next question for you is, since this story deals with so many different themes like guilt and responsibility and perseverance and hope and love, it's just this wonderful like soup of like amazing piece. It's just this great like comforting book that just gives me so much hope, and I adored it. But in our current socio-political climate, what do you hope that readers can learn or take away from this story?
I hope that first and foremost, readers see this for what it is, which is a love story. And that there are two love stories in the book, that between Hiram and Mara Hightower, and that between Joshua and Claire. I love writing a good love story, and I especially love writing love stories between good people because so much of my other writing is quite dark. And this one is one where these are just good people who genuinely love each other. And I also wanted to, bring in some social commentary, but do it artfully. And I care very much about class and labor exploitation and this divide between the extremely wealthy and the people who give them that wealth with their labor. And especially now that three men in this country have more than half of the wealth, um, in a country of 300 million, I think that it becomes even more timely.
It's so beautiful. Thank you so much. And it's just like I said, I could really feel like the love that was coming through with all of the characters. And so it was just, there's sad points, but there's really beautiful points that really just, it's kind of like life. Like you have to have all of those sad, heartbreaking moments in order to really cherish the beautiful moments and understand how special they are. So thank you for bringing that into the world so that we can all read that, because it was a joy for me to sit and read that. So we're here with Rebecca Kirby, and we just have a couple of questions for you, Rebecca, as well. So your art in The Sacrifice of Darkness is so gorgeous and really evokes all of the emotion the characters are feeling. What mediums did you use for this book, and what's your artistic process like?
So the entire book was done digitally, which is new for me. I've always done pen and ink, dip pen, brush, but was sort of very quickly figured out how to do it this way. I thought it would translate better, sort of being able to change things as I went along more easily. So yeah, it was done with Photoshop brushes meant to like emulate traditional mediums. And as far as my process goes, I kind of do a lot of guesswork. I I was really lucky, obviously, being able to work with a script like the one I was working with, but because comics are a million little pictures in one picture inside of a million little pictures, I personally like to sort of feel it out as I go so that when you get to the end of a page, you get your entire composition and go from there.
Awesome. Thank you. So my next question for you is, I know in the storyline there are two congruent storylines going on at the same time. One's in the past, one's in the present or future, depending on how you want to look at it. What was your approach in the art to convey the dual storyline? And also, how did you approach the character design to show the same characters younger and older?
So, as far as drawing the two storylines, I think as a group we talked a little bit about, like before I even started drawing, about how we wanted these two distinct timelines to look and to look distinct. Some of that was handled in color. And then, as far as the drawings themselves, once the light has disappeared from this world. I worked a lot more like heavy spot black areas into the images themselves as opposed to relying on color to sort of like brighten up the world. So there was a different way of inking things, which I hope worked to convey two different scenarios in this world. And as far as characters go, that was actually kind of a discovery as I went into it. I sort of wasn't quite sure, but the more I drew these characters chronologically, the more I felt like I got to draw them like a second nature, and I got really familiar with them, and it sort of made sense to draw them aged, which sounds bizarre, but I got really attached to them. And so that ended up working just kind of by experimentation, and it worked.
That's awesome. Well, it was all very seamless. It's all very beautiful, and I can't wait for people at home to read this book and ingest your art with their eyes. I don't know, that sounds weird. But thank you so much for your time, Rebecca, and to everybody at home. Be sure to pick up The Sacrifice of Darkness in stores now.